following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Hi, everybody. This is former WWE superstar Al Snow.
CW Anderson.
Shawn Oliver.
My name is Eugene.
And you are watching the Insider's Edge podcast.
Now get on the train.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I am your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia in Fury. It is so great to be with you all here tonight, and I'll tell you why. There's not many opportunities that you have in life to be able to speak to somebody who is the best in their field. You want to talk about something like basketball, that would be Michael Jordan. You want to talk about acting? That might be like a Marlon Brando. You want to talk about being absolutely drop dead gorgeous and stealing my heart forever? You might be thinking of Tori Wilson. Here tonight, I have the opportunity to speak to, without a doubt, one of the, and if not the greatest referee in the history of the wrestling business. He is the one, the only, the incomparable Mike Chioda. How are you, my friend?
My man, Carl, I love that opening introductory. What's up, Australia? How you doing, brother? How's everything?
I'm good, bro.
Over like $1 million, man. That's awesome.
I do it every time. It sends everyone floating into the interviews on Cloud 9.
Thanks for having me on the show, brother. Yeah, I miss Australia, man. Love Australia.
We miss you too, Mike. And, this is a thrill for me because I'll get into it in a minute, but this is a thrill for me to have the opportunity to talk with you tonight and today for you as well. But the first question, usually on every show, Mike, is how did you become a wrestling fan before you got into the business, if you were a fan?
I was more of a baseball fan, growing up when I was a kid, because I played baseball. I played soccer for 8 years, European football, did a lot of sports. And on top of that, man, I'm right there with you, brother, on that. But anyway, growing up in the business, I grew up with Gorilla Monsoon out of New Jersey. So growing up in South Jersey, outside of Philadelphia, in between New York City, Gorilla Monsoon was 5 minutes from me. I grew up with Joey Morella. And we used to do wrestling when I was 15. I used to set the rings up in the summertime and do all that other stuff and making good money. And I had 4 cars by the time I was 17. And I was working with Monsoon when he used to own the territory from Vince Sr. So, and he used to run Philadelphia, the Shore, Jersey Shore, all the New York and a lot of the East Coast areas. So, and then my father got sick when I was 17, took a massive stroke, and I got back into it. So, Hulk Hogan was definitely inspired me watching wrestling when I was a kid growing up and stuff. And, I got to say, like when I started full time in 85, 86, he was a big inspire, man. He was phenomenal. Like growing up in the business and seeing the way Hulk Hogan just grasped the children and the kids. And he was like the American hero, he was the real American. Anyways, and I got back into it and loved to travel, and then started loving the traveling. And it was dedication, took a lot of hard work. Tony Chimmel and I, we were a ring crew out of New Jersey, and we were like one of the best ring crews in the WWF at the time. And this is when Titan Sports was, just starting out. Titan Sports as the World Wrestling Federation. Yeah. So we were the most dependent ring crew on the road there, because I became a referee, driving the truck, setting up the rings. Tony Chimmel became a ring announcer. And, Howard Finkel kind of passed the torch on Tony Chimmel. And after that, Tony Chimmel passed the torch on to the beautiful one. What was her name?
Lillian, Jesus. So, over for many years, and Justin Roberts. But anyway, we were like one of the best ring crews. And that's how I got into the business with Gorilla Monsoon. I grew up with Joey and his sister, Valerie Morella. So. Wow. Yeah. I during my research, this is what obviously I found this out that you're very close with the Morella family. Haven't had the opportunity to speak to anybody who knew them, and obviously Gorilla Monsoon is one of the all-time greatest voices in wrestling and human beings, as far as I've heard in other interviews. But
Yeah.
please tell me about your fondest memories of both Joey and Gorilla.
Well, Joey, growing up, we both played baseball. We had a lot in common there. We were good. I was a good shortstop. He was an excellent pitcher. We just grew up. We hung out all the time. We partied together. When I started working in the wrestling business, we traveled together. Had unbelievable amount of stories to tell you there. It's just, it would take another whole couple hours to tell you some stories there. But, me and Joey had a lot in common: sports cars, good-looking women, drinking, hanging out, baseball, sports. And then Gorilla Monsoon, he always gave me a lot of words of wisdoms. Like Chief Jay Strombo made me a referee, and he talked to Gorilla. And then they decided that Joey would help me. Joey would train me. And then a lot of old school wrestlers trained me back in the day. Barry Horowitz helped, to Steve Lombardi, to Greg the Hammer Valentine, to Paul Roma. Just the guys on down the road, just growing up in the business, and it was great because I learned from the best, like from all the old school, so that was that, you couldn't have gone to any better school. Like they got the Peace Center in Orlando. Well, yeah, it'll take you a good 3-4 years to maybe come out of that school, but you learn quick when you're thrown into the wolves with a lot of old school talent, the way they want things done. And Gorilla, always taught me, like he said, look, I wanted to be a wrestler, kind of. Oh my God, I wanted to do this. And he goes, look, longevity in this business, like I tell my son, is refereeing. So, and he goes, the longevity, you can have a good run as a wrestler for 5-10 years, maybe 5 years, 10 years. There's very few guys that'll have a 20-year run. And that's it. But the longevity is refereeing. Look at Dick Worley. Look at this one. Look at, Joey's going to, God bless, he passed away in a car wreck. But, and he was right. I mean, and always told me never to stooge on the boys. He always said, don't be a stooge, do your job. Because if you have to stooge to enhance your position or you're further yourself in the company, then you need to find another job because you're not doing your job right. So the words of wisdom from Gorilla and especially from my father back in the day were totally a big mentor thing for me.
Absolutely. And, speaking of tenure, 31 years in the WWE. This is why this is such a rare.
35 years. Yeah, I was 35 years.
Right.
Yeah, I started refereeing like when I was 33,
right.
like 30 years ago. And then it took me 2 years to get on TV, on the television.
Right, okay.
And all that other stuff. So you had to pay your dues and work live events and make sure you were ready for TV. And when they thought you were ready for TV, I debuted in '89. So that's where I get the 31 years.
Right. Wow. So it's even more than that then. This is incredible because this is a rare interview. It's hard to have the opportunity to speak to somebody who was there for so many important periods of time in the wrestling business. So I mean, I'm sure you and I could crack open a few beers and probably spend 12 hours gas bagging about wrestling in your career.
Next time I'll join you with that red wine and a little pup. Another one.
Sounds good, bro. But I was thinking, where do I begin with this? And I wanted to start kind of at the end of your tenure because you used to this routine for over 30 years. This is, you're used to the same thing week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. How has it been adjusting to not being out there on that crazy schedule? Because the stimulus of you're always working and thinking about what you've got to do that day. Right. Now all of a sudden you're chilling out a bit more.
Yeah, it is.
How do you adjust to that?
It's hard. It's hard to adjust to that, man. I mean, dreams come through all the time when you're sleeping. It's just like on the road and it's just a different lifestyle. Like I always said to myself, I don't think I could ever work a 9-to-5 job, get up at 8, go to work at 9. Because for so many years I did this, like I was traveling and just on the go every morning, flights, whatever, you're doing your shows, getting in late, getting up early, always in a different city every day. When we're in Australia, we did a different city every day in Australia. Melbourne, this, that, Perth, Adelaide, so many little towns. And then we'd up the coast and we come back and do Sydney, and I remember 2002 when we kicked off that Australia tour. That was that big show in Melbourne. Oh man, what a week. The partying going on there before that show. But yeah, I mean, it was a total adjustment, especially with the COVID. So the COVID, thank God Tampa wasn't on lockdown totally. Florida wasn't. So we were able to at least go out to eat and stuff outside and do things, stay on the beach, get on the beach and do things and stuff like that. A lot of beautiful beaches here in Florida. So, but just not traveling like I used to. But now, the whole company just shut down and they were just having their shows out of Orlando. And with the AEW, they're having their shows out of Jacksonville. But now everybody's starting to pick up and starting to travel again. But I think I'm going to get real jealous when they're starting to travel and I'm not traveling as much. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought to myself, man, every day you're having constant conversations with people. You're surrounded by people all the time, talking to people. And now you're at home and you're talking to me. So.
Yeah. So it was definitely a change. But you know what? I said to my wife, I said, it is actually good to kind of be a normal person for a year, which was actually nice. And I said, I'm going to take this year and just kind of relax. And I've been doing a bunch of podcasts and so forth. And we've been doing a little bit of traveling here and there, me and my wife. And, so it was just nice to be like a normal person for a year and just not be on the go so crazy all the time. So it was actually out of 35 years of traveling, it wasn't too bad to take this year and just kind of regrasp and actually enjoy a home that you live in for a while, So.
Absolutely, sir. And you've earned it. You've earned the break. I wanted to kind of seg into a completely different kind of question here. I wanted to ask you about for the layman out there who thinks that, to be a referee, all you got to do is, you got to, count to three or count people out or ask for they want to submit. What are the common misconceptions about referees for the layman out there? Can you tell us about a typical week on the road in the WWE for somebody like you and all the range of duties and everything that you have to take into account with your job as a referee in the company?
Right. With refereeing, most referees, like I did 22 years of ring crew and refereeing pretty much. So, I mean, in the mornings, you'd get up early in the morning, get in that truck, start going to the next town, or you'd be in the next town from the night before, set up the arena by noon. You get there about noon, set it up for a couple hours, get everything sorted out. And then you'd go to dinner or something like that, come back and then get ready for the show. Play cards during the day in the locker room with some of the boys. John Cena was a big guy that played cards. We used to play cards way back in the day. Andre used to play cards. Arnie Skolin got me to play cards, all the old school timers. And Gorilla Monsoon was a big gin, they all played gin rummy. So cards were a big thing and you always gambled and stuff like that. So made a little money on the side, but it was a long day. So you'd set up, you do the show. Tony Chimmel would ring announce. I would referee during the matches. We would, in the beginning, we would take robes when we weren't refereeing the match. Take the robes, do this, make sure the music's playing in the back, make sure everything's going. And when we were doing a lot of live events, this is how the company, we were playing music from a boombox and just putting a microphone to it. That's how we play music.
Wow, really?
To see it now to where it's got to and where it's at now with the staging and everything like that is phenomenal. It's unbelievable. So, and Tony and I, we talk about it, and of course they let him go as well. He was there 38 years.
Wow.
And we talk about it. And we feel like we were a big part of that growing in 3.5 decades. So.
Absolutely.
So we feel good about it, and it was a great run with the company.
Definitely. Well, thank you for your insight there. And look, I'm just going to say, I've got I'm not following some sort of timeline here of events. I'm just throwing different random questions out at you in this interview. Keep you on your toes a little bit. So I don't, I've seen a couple of interviews with you, and I don't believe anybody has brought this up with you. So I was interested to know your thoughts. What were your memories of the WCW buyout and having the WCW referees come on over? Because I know when I interviewed Chuck Palumbo last week, he said that a lot of the wrestlers weren't welcomed with open arms and they had a bit of a hard time. How was the situation for the referees coming in? Were you guys all cool straight away? Were there any butting of heads?
No, there was like Charles Robinson was great. Nick Patrick, they were cool, I mean, we were just glad we didn't have to go down to WCW and work for them if they were going to give us a job, because Nitro was kicking our ass in the ratings for the longest time. So, and we were thinking, holy shit, are we going to be without a job? And who's going to take who over there? And I'm going to work for the Southern boys. And, and it's just, it was just like Ted Turner and all that. And I'm like, we may not even have a job. So it was good to have Charles and Nick Patrick and along the way, I mean, God, one of my most memorable moments, if Nick Patrick wasn't there, was tagging up with Y2J, The Rock, and then on the 6-man tag with the Dudleys and Nick Patrick. Nick Patrick did the job for me, thank God.
No, that was a tremendous moment. Yeah,
but, and as a referee, like there's not too many referees that get to do that kind, like that kind of a match. And then if you look at The Rock from when I did that match, with Jericho, and look where The Rock is right now in Hollywood 20 years later, where Y2J is 20 years later, when Y2J was main event at WrestleMania 2002 in Toronto Skydome with Rock and Hogan.
Yeah.
That's the famous shirt right there from Rock and Hogan's match with
amazing.
Rock signed it, Hogan signed it.
Yeah, cool, man. I was going to bring it up later, but now that you've brought up that 6-man tag team match, yourself, Jericho, The Rock against the Dudleys and Nick Patrick. I watched it earlier. I've seen it a couple of times, but I watched it earlier. And when you came in like a house of fire, down some fantastic working punches, I have to say, I was very
impressed. Oh, my God. I was fucking stressed if I was going to screw that all up. I'll tell you that, man.
But I loved Bubba Dudley coming in with that clothesline.
Oh, and there's a story. If you notice, I'm holding my shoulder for the longest time, right?
Yeah.
He tells me earlier that day, he goes, Chioda, he goes, you don't sell that fucking clothesline, I'm going to fucking get your ass, man. He goes, you better sell that clothesline, So I'm like, of course, man, what the fuck? He goes, you got to remember, you're a referee, so you got to sell it, And I'm like, hell yeah, bro, I will. He ripped my head off with that clothesline. I had no choice, man. So I'm selling it through the whole freaking way back. I'm selling it up there. I'm selling it while I'm doing everything. I'm selling it across the ropes. And he comes back, he goes, Jesus Christ, Chioda, you fucking oversold that clothesline.
Are you kidding
me? I'm like, I sold it all the way back for you. I'm like... So it was a big laugh about that, but that's why I kept selling and selling and selling. I was worried about Bubba getting hot, not selling that clothesline. But it was a fun time. It was a fun time. Great experience, too.
Absolutely. It's not often that, a referee gets to be center stage and gets to be put in a moment like that. So it's really cool for you. And I know El Hebner got to have some moments like that as well.
Yep.
So it's a very rare thing. I wanted to bring it back to the invasion angle. And I usually ask everyone who was in the company at the time their thoughts on how the company handled the angle, and what we got on TV obviously wasn't, for me, I was a little disappointed. But from your point of view, how did you think that it all went?
The invasion went great. The invasion on WCW, right? You're talking?
I'm talking like the alliance, WCW and ECW in WWF. That whole thing.
Merging.
Yeah.
There was some headbutts. I mean, there was some things where RVD didn't want to do the job for this one at ECW, and Paulie was trying to protect his crew. he had every right to, and I remember it was pretty cool. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it because I didn't have to job out to nobody. So, if anything, I'm deciding the match, 1, 2, 3, and I'm just a referee. So it was like, I wasn't going to look up at the line. So it wasn't, but you've seen some headbutts during the invasion where, whether you're not going to put my top guy, you're not going to job my top guy over, out. You're going to put this guy, and or this and this, and a lot of guys didn't want to job out. Back in those days, the wrestlers had more say to it. Today, they really don't have too much say. It's either you do the job or you don't get your paycheck. It's the bottom line, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
things have changed now.
yeah, it's changed. It's changed. But a lot of guys used to definitely, and I mean, of course, coming from that statement for me, of course, and you're going to look at the Brett and Shawn Michaels screw job, trying to protect himself. He didn't want to do the job for Shawn. He would have down the road, but Shawn wasn't working with him prior to that.
Yeah.
So, and then they wanted to job him out in Montreal and stuff like that. And Brett didn't like the way the business was going either, as far as with DX, and for kids and stuff like that. So he's a very big family man, had a lot of kids at the time. But there was definitely a lot of anger sometimes when they'd say back in the day, oh, you got a job out for this one. I mean, if you listen to the Hulk Hogan and Andre stories, was Andre going to let me slam him? Was Andre going to let me really do the job for him? I don't know, So, it's passing that torch is a big thing, like when Andre passed the torch to Hulk, Hulk passed the torch to Rock. Rock took the fucking torch and took it to Hollywood pretty much right after that. He left us dry. And, so, I mean, and then Cena took over. But then when Cena took over and carried the business for 10 years, you had fucking Rock come back and beat him in the first match of WrestleMania. You don't think Cena was a little butthurt on that?
I can imagine he would be, yeah.
And I think you had to get it in writing. Okay, next time at WrestleMania, I'm going over,
Yeah.
Rock gave the seat back to him,
Yeah, absolutely. My next question, Mike, was what are the qualities a great referee needs to have in order to be a great referee, to be the next Mike Chioda? What do you need to be, and what qualities do they need to have?
You have to get that experience in, and you have to get thrown into the wolves and get the experience in. You have to, and actually, like, my thing was always going to the talent and saying to a heel, how do you want me to work with you, and how do you want to work with me? Like, as far as when you do your heel stuff and when you're cheating and when you're doing this, and, I can give you time in the corner, and, I won't count to 5, like right away, I won't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like I'll try and get him out. Build up the intensity, disrespect the ref. And then the ref gets a little hotter. The ref shouldn't be hot right away. There's just a lot of things where then you go to the baby face and you ask the baby face, hey, how would you like me to work, with this? And how do you should get both men's perspective. And if it's a tag team, you get everybody's input on that's the best way you can go about it, and learn and listen, learn and watch, other referees and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of referees that come in and a lot of them don't even ask questions or don't even ask like certain things, and they think they know it all. So it's like, hey, you go, man. But it is what it is, and it just takes time. I think it takes time for a referee to really experience is the most part. It just like a wrestler. Like, very few wrestlers came in this business and grasped the professional wrestling industry. I'd say Kurt Angle, he took it quick.
Yeah.
Other guys just took it quick. You can tell, like The Rock, when he came in, it took him a little bit, boom, but he got it quick. He was quick in and quick out, The Rock, when he started doing Hollywood after 2002, 3, so, it just, It's experience. That's what it is. And it's just the same thing for a referee. There's going to be very few referees that be able to come in and just grab, get control of this business and what they're doing. And then some are going to take a lot longer.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about that, it reminds me of something Chris Jericho once said, that he thought that he got it. But then he took a break from the company and he came back. Right. And it was only then, I don't know what year it was, maybe 2006 or 7 or something like that, whatever year it was. Then he was like, oh, wait a minute. I just got it. I thought I already knew it for the last 15 years. I just got it now. That's
true,
crazy,
right?
Isn't it?
I'll tell you one thing. Chris is a very smart man in this industry, and look at all he does is Fozzy, and he's doing this. And now he's on top with AEW. He's amazing at his age. And, like in 2002, I remember him running around in Sky Dome in Toronto. He's from Canada. He's going, we shouldn't be the main event on this night. Yeah. We should not be the main event. He knew it. So I remember him always chirping about that. And he was right about that. So he knew something in 2002.
Going to be hard to follow that one. And that's what I was actually going to bring up next was, you had the best seat in the house for so many amazing matches. And again, if I went through all of them, we'd be here for a long time. But Hogan versus The Rock, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the greatest pro wrestling matches I've ever seen. I loved every second of it. You got to be the referee for that one. I'm sure you've shared the story before on other shows, but I would love to hear your side of the story for Hogan Rock WrestleMania 18 match.
Well, shoot, Toronto Sky Dome, that's the shirt right there.
Yeah,
Rock and Hogan signed it. I never marked out too many times for so many matches, and I have marked out for a lot of matches. Believe me, I've done so with Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Triple H, and so many other matches. And this match was, it had a lot of expectation to it, whether they were going to nail it or not. So in the company's perspective, they must have not thought they were going to nail it because they put him on second to last or third to last. I believe it was third to last. So in my perspective, the company, looking back at it, didn't think, this match is not really going to hit off, but it wasn't going to be a high flying match. It was icon against icon. All the years Hogan put in, and then with the NWO, when he came out on that entrance, that pop was just phenomenal. It was so phenomenal. I marked out, when you're sitting there on the face-off, and I'm sitting there like this, and I was 30 some years old at the time, and I looked like a young kid, like, oh. I was just like, because all the matches I've gone through with Rock and all the matches I've gone through with Hogan and all the years traveling with Hogan and him being on top, here was the two icons right here, like, at that time. And I had chills. It was fucking amazing. To be honest with you, it was absolutely amazing. And sitting there just listening to that crowd and going, holy shit, we had him on the entrance and then the face off. And then the shove off, and then this, and then the big pops. They were just going nuts. I was like, holy shit, this is easy, And then I just had to worry about my bump when I took a bump that spot when I was outside the ring and I come sliding back in. The timing was perfect when Rock was coming to hit the ropes because he had to run into me, knock me out.
Yeah.
And then that went perfect. And but during that whole match, it was just chills, and it was like, I almost forgot some of the spots because I was just marking out to the crowd and how they were reacting.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. I've done so many other technical matches and wrestling and great other matches and stuff like that. And believe me, they've got some great pops and great cheers. But this was just, that Toronto Sky Dome made it that night. The Canadian fans, they were strong that night. And a lot of European fans, because a lot of European fans do travel to places to wrestle.
Of course. Yeah, it's like it didn't matter what Hogan did. If it was the smallest thing, they went ballistic. It was just never seen anything like that in my life.
He comes out NWO. At his age, he's in great shape at the time. you know, he was in phenomenal shape for his age. And I mean, it was just believable, man. And just like, you actually thought maybe, holy shit, Hogan's going to go over here. You know, I thought I was going to get the buzz. Hey, put Hogan over instead. You know, tell Hogan to go over.
Oh gosh. Another match, in my research, I do believe you were the referee for this one. Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. I know there's a lot of turmoil going on behind the scenes with Shawn at the time. Shawn wasn't talking to Vince. If Shawn and Vince were going to talk, it had to be a middleman in between. How difficult was this one for you?
Had lower back issues too, Shawn, at that time.
Yeah.
Real bad back issues. It was really cool because he had Mike Tyson as the enforcer, you know. So Mike Tyson was the enforcer. And I remember meeting him one night in the rehearsal, you know, like it was like the night before WrestleMania. It was Saturday night or Friday night. We met 2 nights before. And we're just gonna, you know, they wanted to teach him how to count and do that, just whatever, you know, and we were just going over stuff in the match, and he comes up, he's like, "Hey, Mike Chioda." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "You know my name?" I'm like, "Hey, Mike," I'm like, "I know your name." He goes, "Man, I'm a big fan of yours, man." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You watch wrestling that much?" He's like, "I love wrestling." And I'm thinking, holy shit, this guy knows my name. So it was cool, man. He was really respectable working with Mike Tyson and everything. And, you know, and that build up to the whole thing was really cool, you know? So, I mean, really cool, man. Just doing that match. And Stone Cold Steve Austin is one of the best guys in the business. There's 2 icons right there, you know, Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels, man. I mean, the matches. I remember when Shawn came in with Marty Jannetty as the Rockers.
Yeah.
They came some Southern group down south, and as a tag team. And you know, I remember them guys, and they were great as a tag team. That's one thing I'd like to see is Young Bucks against the Rockers.
Absolutely.
So, Boston, that match was phenomenal. The Boston Garden that took over for Earl Hebner. He had got sick.
Yep.
And put me in that spot, which was great. You know, like, hey, if Earl wasn't going to do it, they had me, you know, coming in to do the job. So, and everything worked out great. So, I mean, it was just the Boston Garden was a phenomenal place to work in. Stone Cold, phenomenal guy, and look what he's done in the business for us, man. It was a whole bunch of clicks, man. That's why that whole late 90s, early 2000s was like one of the best eras, the Attitude Era and all.
It was magic. It was definitely magic. I'm only going to bring up one more match because I thought that this would be an intriguing subject. I believe you refereed Armageddon. It was Vince McMahon versus Triple H. I just want to know what it was like being the referee for a Vince McMahon match because I don't know. I just thought maybe it might be.
It's weird. It's a little difficult because you're just making sure the boss is okay in there, you know.
Yeah.
And you know the son-in-law is not going to beat up. You know, he's going to take care of him in there too as well. You're worried about his well-being. But Vince had a lot of spunk even at his age, and great shape he's in, you know, keeps himself in great shape throughout all these years. And you just want it's kind of difficult because, you know, Vince is not the wrestler at all, you know, and, you know, but you have the game in there. Triple H, he's the ring leader.
Yeah.
So, you know, he makes that work for Vince in a match. That's for sure, you know, and I'm there just to pass on cues or pass on spots and so forth, you know, spots, time cues, or whatever Triple H is calling, you know,
yeah,
and whatever Vince is calling. So, I mean, it's just, I mean, it's a little different. It's definitely a different situation when you have the boss in it, you know, and you don't want to fuck up when the boss is in there either. So, in there, there's I mean, and really, you know, Vince is not the professional wrestler. You know, he's the professional businessman, and God, can he cut a promo? But wrestling wasn't his thing. You know, that's for sure. You know, it's Shane's thing, and not his thing. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Vince did very good considering, you know, he's not he's not an athlete. He's easy. He's very well built and all that. But
Yeah.
you know, when he's, I think I don't know who was the one that said it, if it was Triple H or someone talking about his coordination. I kind of liken it to like when you're driving a van and you've got your dog trying to stand up in the back of the family van. It's kind of how Vince is when he's in the ring.
Yeah, sitting in the steering wheel with you. It was the coordination thing too, definitely.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
you probably want to see Shane and Triple H in a WrestleMania match. That'd be a pretty good match.
I think that's one that still needs to happen. So as I said earlier, best seat in the house for so many huge matches and moments in wrestling history. You did speak about Hogan and Rock, but was there ever a spot or moment that in particular blew your mind the most, being able to witness right in front of you?
On that match?
Just anything other than the Rock and Hogan.
It kind of blew my mind was the match with Big Show and Brock Lesnar. When we did that ring collapse.
Right, yeah.
That kind of blew because I never did a match where the ring exploded, and just crumbled down, and like everything was like on they said like these guys are going to be selling after they take the bump. You're going to have to be sitting on your ass. You got to sell that shit just right. You got to sell with your facials. You got to look around like, what the fuck, WWE?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're putting all this shit on me on the finish of this match, the finish of this show. So, with me, actually here, hold on one sec. There's a little shot here. I don't know if you can see this or it's too bright.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Card. But, and I'm kind of just sitting up there like, what the hell, looking around. And then next thing you know, the crowd was just like in a holy shit mode, the holy shit chant. And, they popped, they bought it, they bought the whole thing. So, and then I come back and they're like, great job. I'm like, I didn't even referee a match. It was just looking around. I'm like, So I did my job, did my part, but there's a lot of other matches in my career that, you sat there and just went, holy shit. There's, like a lot of matches I look back at working with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and Undertaker, and that's one match with the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. Like Charles had that match. And like, questions sometimes, is there any matches that you wish you had? And, I said, yeah, the first one with Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, wish I had that match as well. But Charles did a great job in that match. And, loved Charles, talked to him a lot. Great guy, great referee too as well.
Absolutely,
and, So I have to say that was one match I sat back and went, shit, man, I wish I had that match. That was
It really was.
Yeah. Because years ago, I don't think that kind of stuff would have worked out too well because Shawn and Taker didn't really see eye to eye,
Of course, yeah. The things obviously changed down the line, which is
you had the DX click, with Razor and Kevin Nash and X-Pac. And then you had the BSK click with, Yokozuna and Taker and all those cool dudes. But too, man, there are a lot of cool guys on the BSK click. Man. Cool. Crush, you had Crush on there, but they had some big boys on that BSK click.
Absolutely, you wouldn't want to mess with them. The next question I had, Mike, was it's about the referee bump. It's one of my favorite spots. I don't know why. It tickles me sometimes because obviously it's like every time a referee is even slightly grazed by a wrestler, he is out cold. For me, I love it. But can you tell me any stories about any bumps you've taken over the years? Maybe one that was like a little crazy that you might maybe got hurt, or something maybe you weren't too excited about doing?
I really was never worried about being excited about not doing the bump, because even if I got hurt, the wrestlers, what they do in the ring and what they do to give their bodies up to sell the show, to sell themselves, to make the show better. As a referee, you couldn't bitch about the one bump you had, here and there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of bumps where, I remember Shawn Michaels, somebody drops down, I think it was Razor, dropped down, Shawn Michael comes over with the flying forearm, but I didn't turn my feet all the way, got in the nose.
Oh, shit.
My teeth stuck into Randy Orton's head one day before we were even take the bump. My front teeth gashed his head open. There's a lot of bumps, with my knee getting hurt, had a bad ACL for a while. But there's a lot of bumps over the top ropes when you had to take it over the top rope. You're worried about getting hurt, but you never could say you can't do it. And there was a bump not too long ago. I did Shane and AJ Styles at WrestleMania when Shane came back. Very big match for Shane. And I remember I'm in the corner, and I remember AJ says, I'm going to come around with this roundhouse kick and kick you right in the head. Boy, he got me right in the head. I was like, I hope you don't knock me out, because you're just sitting there and you're just waiting for the kick. Man, it was a hell of a kick. Boom. It left a big, like a bruise right above my forehead. Took the skin right off. But I was like sitting there, I was on the end of the apron going, woo, holy shit. Even AJ goes, God, brother, you okay? I know I got you good. I'm sorry, man, But and he apologized for it. But there's a lot of bumps throughout the career that you just, you get hurt. That's it. I remember Undertaker back in the day. I remember I had to he threw me over the top rope, and Shawn was supposed to catch me. And I remember him saying, he goes, I hope he catches you. So like, and he just tosses me. Shawn just turns back around. I just go, pop. And it's a pretty high, it's pretty high when you got like almost 7-foot Taker, standing in the ropes, and you're stretched above him, and you get thrown over the top. It's pretty damn high, man, when you're up there. It's not as high as the steel cage with Shane McMahon and all that. Man,
yeah.
Pretty high up there.
Absolutely, man. And I think if any referee in the history of wrestling ever enjoyed a particular bump more than any, I think it will be when Tim White would take that bump with the hose when he was dancing with them, and he'd take the bump and he'd be
oh my God, he used to love doing those hose dancing. That was his match. When Godfather was on, that was his match. And that's it. We used to have so much fun with that. I remember back in the day when Godfather used to do live events, we'd be like, hey, we need some girls, man. So we used to run to a strip club.
Yeah.
Go to a strip club and go, hey, you guys want to make $200 real quick for, a 10-minute match or something like that, or $150, $200. They'd be like, sure. I had like 5 girls coming back to the arena. Got the hose, man.
That's tremendous. That really is.
You can go to every town and every city and find your nearest strip club, back in the day.
Yeah. Super cool. And when we had the Godfather on the show, I had to specifically ask him, why was it always Tim White that got to be the one that got covered in Hot Women? Why did no one else get a go? But now we know.
Yeah, that was Tim's wife. He always wanted those matches, man. So he's a veteran and he gets what he wants.
Good for him. He looked after Andre all those years. He deserves to be covered in women, okay? Sure Mike, one thing that I noticed about you over the years is when there would be a 2 count, it was always 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
What led to you, instead of doing 2, what is this? Are you trying to tell everyone that you like rock and roll?
Yeah, either that, man, and it was just to change it up a little bit. That's all it was. Because see, that's the thing. I go back to when you look at all the referees, you take a little bit from this referee, you take a little bit from that referee, and you liked what he did. But then everybody was always doing 2. So I'm like, damn, I got to change that up. Maybe I'm just going to do 2 like this, because growing up in baseball, when I was a shortstop, you'd be like this to the outfield, 2 outs, 2 outs.
All right.
3 outs in an inning, just to let your outfield, you always had 2 outs, So I just made that transition in doing that. That's all. And then, I always like to come up and like on a 1-2 and real close false finish come up and make it, interesting and make it exciting too. I just wouldn't go to, like I would really like get into it. And that's even with starting, if you ever noticed, when I used to ring the bell in the beginning of a match, I used to really like just,
Yeah.
some guys go, ring the bell.
Yeah.
It's like I couldn't stand that, and it's like Vince and Kevin Dunn loved how you'd have a title match energized and it's the crowd's getting into it. And I'm like asking this guy, Cena or whatever in the corner, you ready? Are you ready? I'd go back to the other guy, you ready? And I turn around, ring the bell, like, because it'd build up to the beginning of a match, it's just, I just don't want to stand there and go, ring the bell.
Yeah.
So,
definitely. And I noticed those nuances that you would put in over the years. Like that. Yeah. So, you had your signature things. So I thought it was important to bring up the two because I always noticed it even from, back when I first started watching wrestling in 1998.
Okay. Melbourne show.
No, I couldn't. I wouldn't have been able to afford it back then. But yeah, I would have loved to. Wow, cool. That is awesome, man.
Yeah, let's see. Hold up. Yeah, that's the Global Warming Tour Melbourne right there.
Yeah, cool.
Got that chair, man.
Yeah, we were all very excited, even if we weren't going to be going over to Melbourne to see. We were excited that WWE were going to be in Australia, and it was only maybe a year or a few short years later before finally the WWE came to Perth, which was exciting.
Let me tell you a quick story. We partied so much, and we stayed at this casino. I think it was called the Casino. It was a hotel, everything in one, casino and everything. We were there for a week. Well, that was the wrong thing the company knew they did because everybody partied so much. By the time we got to that show at 56,000 people, I thought we had the shittiest show ever. Everybody did. We were so tired, partied out, ecstasy, this, that. I remember going to the bars and then they were closing at like 6 or 8 in the morning. We were coming out and I was like, the first time I came out, it was sunny and bright. And I was like Dracula. I was like, holy shit. These bars stay open this late. And they're staying open until 10 in the morning, till noon or something. It's still going. Yeah. So I got smartened up. So I used to take my sunglasses with me into all the clubs. I'd come out at 10 in the morning. Yeah, I got you now. But yeah, it's amazing times, man. Melbourne was a fun time. We had a lot of fun, man, in that casino hotel all week before that show. And then we had a big show, and I think that's what really kicked off Australia.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really cool to know how much partying was going on back then.
Oh, I wouldn't believe.
So 30 plus years on the road, Mike. Who did you enjoy traveling on the road with most if you weren't driving the truck? And do you have any scary stories of near misses on the road? Surely 30 plus years, there must have been an occasion or two where, things might have been a little hairy.
Like Rey Mysterio was one of my great friends. He's an awesome friend. I traveled with him a lot on the road. R-Truth, Umanga, Test back in the day, Joey Morella way back in the day. Traveled with so many guys, and unfortunately, there's a lot of guys I could bring up that I traveled with that aren't even with us anymore. God bless them. And a lot of guys passed away at an early age. And I used to travel with Snitsky a lot. I still talk to Snitsky. He's living in Pennsylvania, looking like a caveman. And still great shape, big boy. And there's a lot of guys that I miss traveling with, and stuff like that. But unfortunately now I just see him here and there. Jack Swagger, known as Jake Hager, I used to travel with him, and he went over to AEW. And he actually only lives 20-30 minutes from me, so it's good. I get to see him once in a while. And it's just the mishaps on the road, getting locked up in Des Moines, Iowa one time, and I couldn't make the Bowman tour. I almost a job there. So, got in a fight in a bar, me and a couple guys. We got locked up, of course, because we were out-of-staters. We were living in New Jersey, and I knew that was, so we had our WWF television network jackets on or something. And, we were coming into these guys' bar, and, they were just, we were talking to some of the girls, and they were getting a little hot. We were getting a lot of attention. And next thing you know, we're fighting outside the club and stuff, and we banked up some cab, and the cops come, and as soon as they seen our driver's license from New Jersey, they said, "Oh, you're going to jail. You owe $1,500 for this cab." I said, "What?" I said, "You're a police officer at night, and you do body estimates on a day, or that's enough?" Up, 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 click, click. I was like, "How did you know it was just $1,500 right away?" So we're in court the next, God, I was in there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I couldn't see the judge till Monday. And I thought I almost lost my job because I was supposed to leave for Germany on Sunday.
Right.
After Des Moines. And so, fortunately, I kept my job. And then I seen Justice T. Buford for, the judge, and I had to pay $1,500 for that cab. And my buddies had to pay some more money. They had to pay money. So I got out on Monday, and then so that was a mishap. Spent the weekend in jail, and then it was just a lot of times. I could say one thing: we never missed a ring crew spot. Tony and Jim and I, we never missed a ring crew spot. If shows got canceled, if we were stuck in a snowstorm, that was one thing, but we never canceled the show in 22 years of doing ring crew. Tony Chimlin and I together, missing a show or breaking down. Anytime we broke down, the engine broke down, we either had to switch trucks into a rental or get that truck fixed right away and get going still. But that's one thing that we put under our belts. We never missed a ring crew job. Scary flights, South Africa, 96, two engines.
Gosh.
So we just took off out of JFK, not even 10 minutes, and two engines blew. So they said we could make it with the other two engines, but they didn't know if the other one engine was going to blow or not. So they had to release the fuel for about 2 hours before they can even land the plane because they had too much fuel back in New York. And then when we looked down, it was all these ambulances and everything. So we were sitting there, and then me and Tim were writing notes and put them in our briefcase because we couldn't make, no phone calls or nothing like that. We had pagers back then. So we actually thought that was a flight that we were thinking, God, after 10, 11 years on the road, Tim, you think this is the flight? And he's like, "Don't fucking say that." The flight attendants were running around scared. We see all the fire trucks, but they landed it safe, and we got to South Africa the next day. There's one more flight going to Japan, and we had to land in Russia in a broke down naval base in a snowstorm. And if we didn't land third time, we tried to land twice, and we couldn't because the winds were too strong, kept blowing the plane off the runway. And all we kept on is just, we're landing. As we're landing, you're seeing all these broken down MiGs and MiG fighters and tanks and stuff. And I'm like, where the frick are we landing? So we landed in some old broke down naval base in Russia. So the third time, we were on a charter flight with a retired pilot. And their pilots were fighting because they couldn't understand it. They were over the intercom. Everybody's on a big show, and you thought, you'd be screaming or this and that. You don't hear a fucking peep. People, your ass is so puckered up, you don't even say nothing. All you heard was the pilots arguing because they're trying to get communication from the Russians in this tower, and they couldn't speak good English, So, because it was like the last minute thing. We weren't supposed to. So we did. We made it finally after the third time. And he said, if we didn't land the third time, we'd have been dead because we didn't have enough fuel. So we were caught in this big snowstorm. So we get off the plane, me and Big Show. We're like, "Yo, man, we just want a cigarette, have a cigarette somewhere, And the guy goes, Russian dude, military dudes, go, "Right here." We're like, "Well, we're fueling up the plane. You smoke right here. Give me your passport." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" He was like, he's like, "Passport now. You smoke right here." And we're like, can't we go like 20 feet from the plane? You know, or
Yeah.
I said, okay, fine. I said, we didn't blow up in the crash. We're going to blow up now, Show said.
Brilliant.
But yeah, we made it to Japan. But there's some scary times. A lot more than that, though.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I was on the edge of my seat there. Getting back to being in the ring, what is the strangest thing or the the craziest thing that you've had said to you in your earpiece during a match?
In the earpiece, probably either switching a match at some point, you know, which I'm thinking, oh shit, this guy's not gonna like this. This talent's not gonna like that, you know. But Billy Kidman, a lot of people used to curse a lot, you know, tell that, you know, and this was coming from Vince because Vince would be cursing at Billy and the agent. So Billy would pass it on to me. Sometimes they'd be talking so much, I used to take that fucking earpiece and throw it out of my ear because I couldn't focus on the match. I had to focus on my job, spots and my bump or a finish. You got these guys bickering in the ear. Get him the fucking sell. Get him to fucking do this. Get him this. Yeah, fuck that. Everything was fuck this, fuck that. You know, like, you know, sometimes I couldn't, you know, and then you had Jamie Noble and Billy Kidman at the same time screaming in the ear because Vince would be screaming at them to tell me to tell the boys something else. But I've heard a lot of cursing goes on in that earpiece, you know. You know, things. It's always what I was always tired of hearing. Tell the guys to grab a hold. Like every match had to grab a hold. You know, like, I get the hold sometimes, but you know, it's just a little bit too much. But you know, anything is just a lot of cursing on it.
Yeah,
you would never know. But things get really stressful. Like, and that's where I felt like I used to do my job when we didn't get the finish, you know, at Raw and live TV or pay-per-views when they were pay-per-views and not the network. You know, there was a very stressful time. You had to hit your time, you know, 11:05 or 11 o'clock at night, and going off the air at the pay-per-view because it would cost you so much more money if you extended your time with that TV show. So with a cable network, and I used to always hit my times, hit the cues, and get that job done. So if I'm doing my job in there, relaying the message to the boys, when we got 30 seconds, we got 15 fucking seconds, we gotta go. And a lot of times you think I'm yelling at the wrestlers, but I'm telling them, we gotta fucking go home now. We got 30 seconds. And you think I'm acting like I'm yelling at them or scolding them for something. You know, I'm actually passing other things on to them. So
right.
So
Nice. All right. Well, I'll move on a little bit further here. We haven't got too many questions left, Mike. I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite era of wrestling that you were a part of as a referee?
I got to say the Attitude Era. I mean, you had Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you had DX. You know, you had China. Right there, you go. You had you know, you had Razor Ramon in that area. You just had a lot of good talent, man, in The Rock, and you know, you still. I mean, it's just. The Attitude Era, I think, was probably one of the best eras. You know, you had Bret Hart. Unfortunately, he left before that era, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, he had a lot of super talent, man. Stone Cold, The Rock, and DX, and Undertaker. And it was just, that was the best era for me. You know, I have to say, yeah, the Attitude Era.
Absolutely, bro. It's my favorite too. Too.
But so I mean, you know, and I got some turnbuckles up from the Attitude Era and from the old school.
Oh wow, yeah, cool.
Got some old school there. I just sold actually 2 of them old school turnbuckles from WrestleMania 4 and 5.
Really?
Yeah. So I had, and this collector got $1,500. I was like $1,500 because he's seen a couple of them I had on the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now this treasure show is going wild. you know? So I'm like, shit, I should have held on to these turnbuckles, man. I'd be getting bad for it, maybe. Rick, you ever see that on A&E?
Yeah, I have. I've seen every episode.
Yeah. So I mean, look at Ric Flair's getting for his robes and stuff.
I
now.
know, right?
They're getting for ring skirts and for jackets. It's like, holy shit, you know. But yeah, it's pretty. I have to definitely go with the Attitude Era, man.
Excellent. That's my favorite as well, because that's what I fell in love with. It's how I fell in love with it. It was because of the Attitude Era. So moving on from there, Mike, I wanted to ask you, what is next for Mike Chioda? Do you want to ever do it full time again? Is there something else in life that you'd like to do?
Yeah. I mean, I've traveled over 60 different countries and a lot of countries over and over and over. It was beautiful to travel. I'd like to travel a little bit more in my lifetime now coming up and enjoy the times and spend a week in Australia. Like that's my next bucket list. To take my wife is Australia. I've taken her to London, Japan, here, there, about 15 different countries. But the bucket list is definitely Australia for her, you know, for me, for her. So, and, you know, I just want to do that, but I want to work part-time. I don't want to work full-time anymore. You know, I don't want to go traveling. You know, if I had to do it here and there, you know, and which everybody's schedule was kind of getting lighter anyway, because they were talking about knocking live events down before COVID.
Yeah.
They were talking really cutting live events down, shortening them down, because we were doing too many of them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the boys going to TV tired, exhausted already from the weekend, you know, save it for the long tours for Europe or, you know, whatever. I worked with a little bit with AEW, but right now I'm in the process of working with LAWE, Latin American Wrestling Entertainment, and that's with the Colones in Puerto Rico.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, so Eddie Colon and Orlando Colon, Primo and Epico, they're starting a new company in Puerto Rico. So there's a lot of generations. Carlito is going to be in it, Andrade, and a lot of good other talent that's coming aboard. And I'm going to be training referees, doing main event matches, and just revamping and doing a lot of production stuff and revamping the ring and stuff like that, and getting ready for TV. And hopefully TV kicks off there in October.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that here on YouTube down there in the description, everyone, you can check out what Mike's talking about there. Before I get to my final segment, 5-second frenzy, Mike, one last question. How do you hope Mike Chioda is remembered for his time in the wrestling business?
Man, that's a good question. Just a guy that went in there and did his job. And, you know, I wasn't in business for myself. You know, I never tried to put myself over as a referee or anything like that. I just went in and I did my job and I did the best I could. And, you know, sometimes when a referee is too noticeable in a ring and you're making too many gestures and doing all this stuff, you're putting too much attention to yourself. You know, when you're selling every bump and you're, wow, you know, like, and you're doing all this, you know, whatever. It's just sometimes, you know, yeah, it's time to sell a bump, sell things, but I just want to be remembered as somebody that did my job and, you know, and did it right, you know, and I do appreciate a lot of the fans in Australia, around the world, and they've given me much love and much respect, you know, from just doing my job, and really appreciated that, you know. And I'm just, I am happy I'm not the referee like Earl Hebner was in the screw job, because I think that would have haunted the rest of my career.
Yeah.
So it's just happy I wasn't in that spot, that situation. Brett was a good friend of mine, and Shawn was too. But I mean, you know, Brett was real good. I would have hated to do that to somebody, and I think that would have follows kind of Earl Hebner a little bit throughout his career too.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, just somebody that, you know, did my job and entertained the people and did the best I could.
Absolutely, and you did do that. That's what you did achieve, and that's why I'm proud to have had you on the show here today. To have the opportunity to have a chin wag with you and Mike at this time. It brings us to 5-second frenzy. You have 5 seconds to answer each question, even if you don't do it in 5 seconds. It's okay. You won't get in any trouble.
All right.
Quick fire questions, quick fire answers. Mike Chioda, the first question: who is your favorite wrestler?
Probably have to say The Rock.
Excellent. Now, usually this question is your favorite opponent, but you only had one match, and you won it, and you're still undefeated. But who is your favorite wrestler to referee for?
I'd probably have to say Shawn Michaels.
Excellent, excellent. I know this is a tough one, but if you had to pick one match as your favorite match that you ever witnessed, whether you were in the ring or whether you just saw it on the TV, what is your favorite wrestling match?
Man, the godfather of wrestling, man. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, even though I wasn't in that match. But yeah, I wish I could have done that first match between them.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was amazing.
Man.
Absolutely, bro. Finally getting away from wrestling here, Mike. Favorite book?
Favorite book? Probably, I'd have to say Game of Thrones.
Very nice.
Yeah, Game of Thrones was my favorite book and actually my favorite movie. I mean, besides Gladiator back in the day, but Game of Thrones was awesome, that series, man.
So that's your favorite TV show as well, then?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Game of Thrones was awesome.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that was the next one, favorite TV show. So favorite film? What's your favorite movie?
Gladiator.
Gladiator is the favorite film. Favorite TV shows, Game of Thrones. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Moving forward, favorite musical artist or band?
Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I lived in Birmingham, England, man, way back in the day, in the late 80s, bro.
Wow.
You know, I have to say Led Zeppelin's my favorite band, but it had a lot more. Actually did not get to see Led Zeppelin when I was younger. I was born in 66, but I did see Robert Plant solo. I did see Live Aid, but I didn't see the full band with John Bonham. But Led Zeppelin is one of my favorite. Jim Morrison actually is one of my favorite.
Oh, bro. Yeah. You're speaking my language there, bro. Yeah. I love it.
One of my favorite too.
Excellent, excellent. I had the chance to see Robert Plant about 4 years ago. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I was very lucky.
Nice. Did he play a lot of old school shit too? I heard he mixes it up a little bit now.
He played more Zeppelin than I thought he was going to.
Really?
So
Cool.
Yeah, I thought he might only play like 3, but I think he played like 6 or 7 Zeppelin songs. So I was like pretty happy about it.
It's about 45 minutes of good, awesome.
Absolutely. I kind of feel like some of these artists. Definitely not that one, but I kind of feel like sometimes these musicians, when they come to Perth, because we're so isolated and we don't get a lot very often, they'll go a little bit of the extra mile. Like when Prince came here, he actually passed away a couple months after he performed here in Perth, but wow. Prince played so many songs that he doesn't usually play live. So yeah, I think we got a treat there as well. But anyway, enough about me and my experiences.
I'd like to hear it.
Cool, bro. Favorite food?
Man, oof. I'm Italian, Polish, Lithuanian. I love my Italian food, but I gotta say, man, Korean barbecue gets me a lot, man. In Japan, I love Korean barbecue, man.
Very nice.
Kick the meats and the chicken, steak, and all that. But I'd have to say Italian food is my favorite food.
Excellent, excellent. Obviously, you traveled many miles. What's your favorite place to eat on the road, Mike?
Favorite place to eat would probably be Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite places. Yeah, Japan.
Very nice. Third last one, Mike. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
Oof, a proper Stella, mate. Alcoholic beverage. No, I like a nice stiff vodka. with a little splash of club soda and a splash of crayon just to put a little color into it. That's it.
Very nice.
I'm a vodka drinker.
Nice, very classy. Okay, Mike, the second last one. Favorite female body part? You're going to check out a lady. Where do your eyes go to first?
Man, it's the ass. It's the ass guy. Eyes in the ass. Yeah, I'm an ass guy.
I'm down with that for sure.
Yeah.
And
you cannot have too much working up top, man, with the boobies. But you got an ass, you're in.
I believe that was the same answer that Chuck Palumbo had as well.
Man, I hope he's doing well, man. Damn,
he's doing fantastic, actually.
Awesome.
He's killing it. And the last one on 5 Second Frenzy, Mike Chioda, what is your favorite curse word?
I'd have to say fuck.
It's the number one answer.
You know, that's it. That's probably the number one. You know, That's where I grew up listening in the household.
See, if this was Family Feud, this would be the number one answer. Fuck.
That's it. Definitely. Right. That's
it. Well, Mike Chioda, wow. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me here today on the number one wrestling podcast in the Southern Hemisphere. I don't care. I have to be number one. I'm sure I'm doing better than someone in the Philippines. I have to be the number one. So I want to thank you so much for your time. And I have to tell you, and this is what I do this at the end of every interview, but I have to do this because what a lot of, the performers in the professional wrestling business have done for me, is inspire me. And I just want to always let everyone know that everything that they've done in the wrestling business, everything they've achieved in life, I appreciate it. And I want to tell you that you should be so proud of everything that you accomplished in your life, sir. And thank you again for being here on the show.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, Carl. Hopefully we'll be able to do it again, man, sometime down the road.
Absolutely, brother. No problem, my friend. And so thank you again, Mike.
You got it, man. Thanks for all the Australian fans and your time and everything. And miss you guys, and hopefully to be out in Australia sometime soon.
Excellent, bro. I'll cook you a nice Aussie barbecue.
Appreciate it. Aussie.
So thank you, Mike Chioda, and thank you everyone for watching the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, California, and free with my new friend, my brother here, Mike Chioda, and we will see you all next time. Thank you.
Take care, Carl. Thanks again, brother.